my channel. I'm Rachel, the owner and creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. Today is Wednesday, and for today's video, I pulled a few items out of my stash and used them to create a small kind of summary, very neutral vignette using Sweet Pickins milk paint and DIY paint. And I think they turned out really well. I love them all together. I hope you guys do too. And without further ado, let's get to today's projects. My first project for today is this pillar holder that I've had in my stash for a while now, and I really liked this one because it's nice and wide and can be used for a riser rather than just as a pillar holder. And I decided to go with a new color to me. This one is called Monet's Garden. It's this beautiful green by DIY that I've never used before, you guys. And so I thought it matched with the decoupage paper I'm going to be using in one of the other projects really well, and I wanted a pop of color for this vignette, so this is the color that I chose. And I'm going over the pillar holder with 2 good coats of that Monet's Garden. You can see it's a nice rich color. I got good coverage. There were only a couple places where the black was still showing through that I had to do a touch up with a 3rd coat. Once all my paint was dry, I decided I wanted a little bit more of a smooth finish. DIY paint tends to be a little bit thick and it does leave some brushstroke marks. And for this piece, I just decided I wanted a little fewer brushstroke marks. So I went in with some 220 grit sandpaper and just smoothed things out a little bit. Once I was done with the sanding, I went ahead and took this over to my sink and just rinsed it off. Now, DIY paint can be reactivated with water, so I wanted to be careful not to just go in and wipe off the water because I would have taken a lot of the paint with it. So I'm just kind of dabbing it dry very carefully and cleaning up the bottom really well, trying to get any paint that had gotten on there off. And then once that was done, I grabbed a damp shop towel and went in and did just a little bit of wet distressing. This was relatively easy because my paint was still just a little bit damp from running it through the sink. Once I was happy with my distressing, I set my pillar holder aside to dry completely before it was time to seal it. And for that, I chose to start with a coat of DIY's clear wax. Now, since DIY paint can be reactivated with water, you definitely want to make sure and seal it. The waxes are my favorite way to seal them. I love the soft matte finish that you get with the waxes, and I am just applying it with a soft bristle brush and then gently wiping off any excess wax with a dry shop towel. And I like to point out here the difference between the dry paint by itself and how much darker it is with that wax on it. Now it will dry just a little bit lighter, basically somewhere in between the 2 colors, but I absolutely love the depth that you get once these paints are sealed. Now, since the Monet's Garden was just a little bit darker than I wanted, I decided to try and lighten it up a little bit with some DIY's white wax. So I am just going over that clear wax with a light coat of white wax to just lighten up that paint and to really enhance some of the details in this pillar holder. And again, I'm just using a dry shop towel to gently wipe back the excess. In the end, I'm really happy that I made the choice to paint this pillar holder with the Monet's Garden. I really think it turned out pretty. My second project for today is this cute little bird that I picked up at Goodwill a while back. And this thing had some paint that was peeling. It wasn't in the best shape and definitely needed a paint job. Now, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you've seen me do kind of a concrete, granite, stone look before, and that is kind of what I'm going for with this little bird. So I am starting here with DIY's Weathered Wood, which is this beautiful kind of dark gray that has a little bit of brown to it, and I absolutely love it as a base color for the technique that I'm going to be doing with this bird. And as you can see here, I am pouncing or stippling my paint on. I've got kind of a flat bottomed, hard bristled brush that I use for that. And I did end up going over it with 2 coats of the weathered wood, just giving it a nice solid base coat. The next color I'm going in with is DIY's Crinoline, which is this beautiful creamy off-white. And again, I am just pouncing or stippling that on kind of randomly. I don't want full coverage. I definitely want some of that weathered wood kind of poking through. And the reason I'm stippling it, well, there are a couple reasons, honestly. One, it gives a little bit of texture to the paint, which I like. And 2, the paint has more of a mottled look rather than this solid look that you get when you paint it on. And the third color that I like to use when I am doing this technique is Letterpress Gray by DIY, which is kind of a mid-tone gray. The only thing that makes it a little difficult is that Letterpress Gray, when it's wet, looks a lot like dry weathered wood. So you just have to be really kind of cognizant of where you're putting it down, just so that you don't get too much of it in one place. And then I just play with the paint from here, you guys. I add a little bit more crinoline and I just kind of dab that on heavier in places and lighter in others. And then I will go back in with a little bit more of that letterpress gray and then maybe some more weathered wood. And I just keep tweaking it until I am happy with the look that I have. So there's really no rhyme or reason, no right or wrong. You just have to make this the way that you want it to look, and that's all that really matters. Once I'm happy with how my little bird looks, and you'll notice this one is definitely a little more crinoline and a little less gray, and that's kind of what I wanted with this bird. Some things I make more gray and less white. It just really, again, depends on the look you're going for. But once I'm done playing with the paint and it's completely dry, it's time for a sealer. And for this, again, I'm just going over it with a good coat of DIY's clear wax, making sure to work that wax into all of the little nooks and crannies in my little bird. And then I am going to grab a dry shop towel and very gingerly wipe back the excess wax. Then my little bird is finally finished, and I have to say I absolutely love how he came out, and I hope you guys like him as much as I do. My final project for today is this wooden gold frame that I've had in my stash for a while. And I have had this thing out and then put it back so many times, you guys, just trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with it. It's a pretty frame. I absolutely love the detail on it, but I just wasn't super excited with the color gold that it was. And I knew I wanted to do something fun on the inside, and I just had the hardest time figuring out what that was until I watched Yvonne over at Ginger Chick Rehab make over a frame that she had, and I decided I wanted to try that with this one. So that is the direction I am heading. The first step obviously was to take out the guts and give the frame a good wash. I just used some crud cutter and then rinsed it really well with some clean water. Now, Yvonne started her project by using shellac that she painted on as a base coat for some Sweet Pickins milk paint. And the reason she did a clear coat was so that if the milk paint crackled or chipped off, you would have the gold underneath, which I totally understand. And that is exactly what I wanted to do. But I don't have paintable shellac. What I had is DIY's Salvation Solution. So I am trying that as my base coat. So I put one good even coat of that all over my frame, and Salvation Solution is a great stain blocker. It is a great base coat and it is clear. And so that was why I went ahead and used it. Then I'm going over the Salvation Solution once it's completely dry with a couple coats of Sweet Pickins milk paint. And this color is called Creamy. And I mix this up as according to the package directions. It was, I think I did a 1/4 cup of milk paint, a 1/4 cup of hot water, and I did not use any extra bond in this. Now, the absence of the extra bond would probably have been good enough to get some crackle and some chippiness out of this paint without using my hairdryer. I did that more as a time saver than anything, just to kind of speed this process along because I wanted to get both of these coats of paint on relatively quickly. And it definitely did help make sure that I got some good crackle going on in my milk paint. Once all my paint was on and dry, I went ahead and cleaned up the back of this frame with some sandpaper. I'm not going to be painting it, but I wanted it to be nice and clean before I moved on. Then it's time to seal my paint. And now here is another place Yvonne and I are different. She used a clear spray to seal her milk paint. I am starting off with, of course, DIY clear wax instead. And I am going over the entire front of the frame with the clear wax and also the back of the frame. And I'm just using a dry shop towel to wipe back the excess. Then it was on to the final step of this frame, and that was adding my black wax. Now, I have to say mine definitely turned out a little bit darker than Yvonne's, maybe because she used the spray sealer and I used the clear wax. Maybe mine is just a different black wax, but I kind of panicked a little. You can see there when I first wiped it back, not a lot came off. So I grabbed my handy dandy clear wax brush and I went over it. Now, as you probably know, clear wax kind of acts a little bit like an eraser with the colored waxes. So if you're ever in a pinch and you need to lighten up a colored wax, grab some clear wax and just go over it again. I went ahead from then on and went over my frame with a really good coat of clear wax mixed with just a little bit of mineral spirits so that I would have a bit more of a barrier between the black wax and my paint. And that seemed to help quite a bit. So I just worked my way around the frame, putting down a little bit of that clear wax first, not wiping it back, and then putting the black wax directly over it. And again, that really seemed to help mitigate the issue of that black wax just seeping right into the paint. Then as a final step for my frame, I went over it one more time with a coat of clear wax just to kind of highlight the detail a little bit more and make it shine. Then I set my frame aside and moved on to my artwork that was going to be going inside. I needed some backer paper, so I'm starting with a piece of watercolor paper to attach my decoupage paper to, mainly because it's already white, so I don't have to paint anything white, and it makes just a good backdrop for the decoupage paper so that my image will really stand out. Then I cut out a piece of this cardboard backer as well for a little more strength. Just because the watercolor paper does tend to warp when you add your decoupage medium, and I didn't want that to happen. So I'm just attaching the watercolor paper to the cardboard backer with some spray adhesive. Then it's time to get out the beautiful decoupage paper I'm going to be using. It is part of one of the new sets by Redesign with Prima called My Garden Whimsy. It comes with two pieces, one large and one small, and I'm using the small piece. The first thing I'm doing is just steaming out the wrinkle from the middle of the paper, and then I'm going to be decoupaging it down to my watercolor paper. For my medium, I'm using Sweet Pickins Top Coat in matte, which dries very clear and hard and makes a beautiful decoupage medium. And I am just putting a nice even coat of that onto my watercolor paper, laying my paper over the top, making sure that it's nice and straight, and then just smoothing that down. And then I'm adding a little bit more of a strip of that medium and smoothing the paper down over the top using my brush and some more of that medium to smooth out any wrinkles and make sure I've got good adhesion. So again, just a strip of the medium onto the paper, smooth the decoupage paper over the top, and then add another coat of the medium on top of the paper. Since my decoupage paper was a little bit too big for my backer, I had to cut off the excess with some scissors once it was completely dry. And then it was time to work on putting my frame back together again, starting, of course, with cleaning the glass really well on both sides. While I was putting the glass and my artwork into the frame, I realized that I did not have a hanger on this. So I grabbed out my handy dandy hanger kit, measured the frame to find out where the center was, and added a cute little sawtooth hanger to the back of my frame as well. Once that was done, my little frame project is finished, and I absolutely love how it came together. I really hope you guys like it too. Well, that is it from here for today, you guys. I hope you liked my projects and I hope you enjoyed today's video. What did you think of that new to me green called Monet's Garden? I really kind of like it. It's definitely a more leafy green, I guess, than the ones I normally use, but I can foresee myself using it again in the future. So stay tuned for that, I guess. If you did enjoy today's video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that, you guys. And if you haven't already, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and then just hit the little notification bell so you don't miss anything. And then of course drop a comment below and let me know what your favorite project was and what you thought of my little summary vignette for today. Just a quick reminder too, any of the paint products you see me use can be purchased through me at my website, and that is www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. It's listed below in the description box as well. I carry DIY paint and products as well as Sweet Pickins milk paint and products, some Recycled Treasures decoupage papers, and of course some Redesign with Prima. So go check those out there. For Saturday's video, it is going to probably be some more thrift flips. I have tons of stuff in my stash that I really need to keep working through, so stay tuned for that. I hope you'll join me back here on Saturday. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and beginning of the weekend. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it, and I'll see you on Saturday. Bye.